G'day punters, I'm Mark Duclos. Welcome along to this week's episode of Behind the Boxes. We've got a big show coming up. Ricky Brewer and his wife Caitlin will join us. Chief Operations Officer of Greyhound Racing New South Wales, Wayne Billett, will also be a special guest. But as always, welcome along to my co-host, Timmy the Battler Newbold. Timmy, first off, I've got to ask you, mate, how the home delivery is going this week?
Yeah, g'day, Duke. Yeah, there's been a few come through. I think I sent you a photo on the weekend of a delivery which came through. So yeah, it's been an exciting week personally. I ventured out of Alcatraz on Monday to go and get the first vaccination shot. So I got out of the house for an hour. So that was an exciting part of the week. Work-wise, we're being pretty busy at Greyhound Racing New South Wales with everything happening at the moment, COVID and the like, and continuing with all of the race meetings. So yeah, busy week. And yeah, the home deliveries, they continue to roll in each and every day, Jude.
Normally I get tips from you, but when I got a photo of the home delivery and what you got, I knew you were in trouble. Listen, a big show coming up, as said, Ricky Brewer, Caitlin Brewer, Wayne Billett. We're also going to chew the fat. We'll try and find you a couple of dogs to follow and discuss what's hot and what's not. But first up, one of the real young guns of our training ranks in New South Wales is Ricky Brewer. He joins us on Behind the Boxes this morning. Rick, welcome along. First off, mate, can you tell me, where did your passion for greyhound racing come from?
I used to head to the old Richmond Dogs probably when I was 3 or 4. My old man worked there behind the bar for 20 odd years. So I just sort of tagged along every Wednesday and Friday, and yeah, and just, you know, was trying to have a bet at a young age and just following the dogs, you know.
Ricky, from early days, from the beginning of your working life, what were your aspirations? Was it always to become a full-time professional greyhound trainer?
No, I started carpentry apprenticeship when I was about 14 and went through till I was 16, and my brother moved home at the time. He was working under a few trainers and sort of come home with 20 dogs, and I was helping him of an afternoon, and probably a year later, he said, Rick, I'm going to New Zealand. And I think he left a week later and he left me with 20 dogs. I sort of went, I don't know what I'm doing. I was ringing him every day to say, what do I do? And yeah, that's sort of how it all kicked off and just went from there.
That was brother Daniel, wasn't it? Who worked for Okay, yeah. So Dan, I knew Dan 20 odd years ago on that when he was coming through the ranks. Rick, it's been a long progression from being left with 20 dogs to where you are today. Only a few months ago, you and Caitlin moved to a bigger property at Bargo, which is in southwest Sydney. First off, tell us about your setup and how many dogs you've got on the property.
Yeah, we've probably got 30 in the kennels and 20 outside pups, so there'd be 50 to 60 here at all times.
Did you have any trepidations about doing it? Because it was a big move. I mean, you're on a smaller property earlier, but now you've gone to that next stage.
Yeah, we just had the kennels at the old property, and we wanted to do a few of our own pups and a few clients' pups just to try to give them the best of their start in life as race dogs. So we thought, you know, let's get out and have a go and see how everything goes. And look, up to this point, everything's gone fantastic. So,
and Ricky, you're yet to win a Group 1 race, but you did what many trainers will never do in their lifetime. That is train 5 winners at one meeting. That was at Bathurst earlier on in the year. Do you rate that your biggest moment in the sport so far?
Yeah, I think that was a good night. We've had a lot of good nights like that, but yeah, just going to the track and trying to keep the dogs, you know, peaking every week. That's all we strive for. Whatever race it is, we're happy to win at this stage, and you know, just pay the bills and just keep going along.
Rick, which trainers do you admire the most? And I guess the other part of this question is, who has given you the most support during your training career?
Look, my brother Daniel, he's always been a big help. Without him, we would have struggled at times. And Jason Magri's always been there if I need a phone call. You know, same goes with Dave Irwin. If I ever need anything, I give them guys a call, and they're more than happy to help out. So they're good people.
And Rick, when we get back to some sort of normality, what do you hope to achieve in the sport? Group 1 races, obviously, but just continue to train winners along the way?
Yeah, that's the plan. This year was the plan to travel around all year. We went to Gunnedah and done a few big trips, but obviously that's ended now. So we'll plan on just with the dogs we've got. We've got a couple there that look like they're going to be nice dogs, but we're just trying to get around and win the races we could with the dogs we've got. So.
And on that, your current team, are there any you can tip us into to follow? Any dogs to follow? Any young ones coming through that you think will make the grade?
I've got a couple. They're unnamed. There's a bitch here called Lexus Herrera. She's just stepped up to the 500. I think over the next 4 to 6 weeks, we might see a nice, tidy little bitch there.
Rick, thanks for joining us. Again, the life of greyhound trainer is so busy. So I believe you're about to go to Richmond to trial. Caitlin's going to go to Appin.
Yep.
You're racing at Dapto tonight. Tell me, what time did you start this morning and what time are you going to get home tonight?
Oh, we started about 6:30. Our last let out, Caitlin will do the last let out tonight about 9:30, and I'm tipping I probably won't be home till after 12. So it'll be a big one tonight.
Yes. All right, mate. All the best. Thank you so much for joining us. Your lovely wife, Caitlin, has come into shot there. Now, Caitlin, I was just saying to Rick, you are the real backbone of this organisation. I know what you do. I don't know how you do it, but Kate, tell me, you've got a husband to look after, firstly. You've got 2 young kids. You've got all the pups and all the dogs. You're a Wonder Woman. How do you do it?
Oh, I just take it day by day. It is hard, but you do what you love and it makes it a lot easier.
And tell me about your life in greyhound racing and how did you get involved? Yeah, Rick, you can go. You off to Richmond, mate. Trial the dog.
Thank you. See you guys.
See you, mate.
See you, Rick.
Caitlin, did it start with when you were with Ricky, or was it before that?
I got into greyhounds with my auntie and uncle, Jeff and Jane Crawford. And I was with them from about 10 years old. I think my first race meeting was. And yeah, just from there, I kept on going with them. And then I met Ricky at Richmond. And I think we're about 16 years old. And yeah.
And Jeff and Jane, they're up here in Queensland at the moment. Of course, Jeff raced Leroy Rogue, who won a Group 1 Hobart 1000.
Yeah, he's at stud now. He's a stellar dog. And his stud career's it's starting off really nicely. So yeah. All
right, you better tell us, which baby is this? Which one?
This is Jack. This is Jack. He's just shy of 5 months now.
I see him on Facebook all the time. We take him into the kennels with the dogs.
Yeah, no, he's great with the dogs. He's very patient with me because unfortunately, sometimes the dogs have to come first. But yeah, he's very good. He's very good with them.
You are a superwoman, Caitlin, believe me, because I've got a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And we haven't got any pets. Actually, we've got a fish, and that's enough for us at the moment. So I don't know how.
Come on.
Yeah,
I know. And we actually inherited him when we moved into the house too. He's out in one of the back pond. Caitlin, you had 3 new pups arrive earlier on the week. Fernando Bale, Serena Fly High, who is the dam of Jungle Juice, Tommy Shelby. Gee, it must be great to be entrusted to young pups, the quality of that breed.
Oh, look, when we got the phone call that we had secured some of them, we were just over the moon because they're obviously very high demand pups. But yeah, hopefully they're gonna become something nice on the track. Anything half as good as Jungle Juice and Tommy Shelby, that'd be nice.
Caitlin, is there any sort of, I guess, trepidation about it? Like, you've got these pups that are so well bred and worth such a lot of money. I already know the answer to the question, but for those who don't, do they get any special treatment that the other pups don't get?
Oh, look, they're in a kennel that is they're in a yard, sorry, that is right next to the let-out yard. So I am with them nearly all day, every day. But they're pups. They got to get treated like pups. They got to have fun. They run around. They've got balls in the yard to play with. I am very, very observant of them. I make sure that they're always in the yard, and if I can't see them, I make sure they come running out of the kennel. And yeah.
Now, Which one's this one? This is.
Oh, I've got another one. Lane.
Good boy. A big smile to you. Listen, we just heard Rick say, pardon me, he's off to Richmond. You're off to Appin to trial.
Yeah.
You come back, you've got to work the dogs in the afternoon. You do the last night, the let out last night. You must get enormous satisfaction out of what you do.
Oh, it is very rewarding, especially when, you know, like you mentioned earlier about like we got 5 winners in one meeting, which that's happened twice now for us. So it is very rewarding, you know, the early mornings, late nights.
Mommy, how did you got that thing in your hair right now?
I'm on the phone, Alan.
Oh, the joys of technology, see?
I know.
No, but it is.
Yeah, it is very rewarding.
Yeah, and it is a tough gig, isn't it, Caitlin? I mean, it's not like it's a 9-to-5 job where you just switch on and switch off.
No, definitely not. You know, I'm up normally every morning. I'm up about 4:30 with the kids or with Jack mostly. And I'm up from then, and the last let out, you know, is anywhere from 9 to 10 o'clock. So we're not in bed until about 11. So it is very, very long days and stuff. But yeah, like I said, it's very rewarding.
Yeah. All right, we're going to let you go. So we know how busy your life is.
Yeah.
Again, well done. I mean, for what you guys are doing and the success that you're having, it is great. It's terrific to see young people like yourself and Rick, you know, coming through the ranks and particularly having the success. So from everyone in the game, best of luck. We hope it continues.
Thank you.
I know you've got your hands full. I know how tough it is. So well done, Caitlin.
No, thank you very much, guys.
Good on you. That's Caitlin Brewer along with Ricky Brewer. We're going to come back with more on Behind the Boxes right after this. Welcome back to this week's episode of Behind the Boxes. Our next guest is a man that is absolutely influential in ensuring that greyhound racing in New South Wales continues during this pandemic, a man who has had a long and illustrious career in the greyhound racing industry. Wayne Billett, the Chief Operations Officer of Greyhound Racing New South Wales, joins us. And Wayne, thanks for appearing on Behind the Boxes. I have to ask you first up, how difficult and how big a challenge is it for you and your team at Greyhound Racing New South Wales to continue racing through the pandemic?
Yeah, good morning, Mark and Tim. Really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come onto the show. Yeah, so certainly a challenge has probably been a bit of an understatement, Mark. I think that, you know, the first time around last year, we developed a style of racing and pattern, and which was sort of all encompassing with regions, etc., and worked really well. This time, been very different. The dynamics have been very different. It's been the fluidity of it's changed. It can change from hour to hour, day to day this time around, which in itself has proved a huge challenge to be able to make sure that we're across all the changes, all the guidelines, and be able to communicate that to industry and clubs, etc. So it's been a very different environment this time. So it's been a challenge, but to be fair, all the stakeholders, whether it be the clubs, the participants, GWIC, Greyhound Racing New South Wales, have been absolutely outstanding in being able to adapt to what's been put in front of them.
And Wayne, I've seen it firsthand, your racing team, yourself, you've been flat chat all the way through. So I think everyone deserves a pat on the back in Greyhound Racing New South Wales, because as you just said, it's a fluid situation. It changes hour to hour, and everyone has done a great job. Yourself, the racing team, and everyone involved, all of the owners and trainers too, with going to the tracks, and even the trainers. We have been transporting their dogs to the track. They've been a big help in the last 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, definitely, Tim. And you're right. The racing team are the front line of their operations. They're the boys that take the calls from people, whether it be nominations or whatever. So them and themselves have done a fantastic job by navigating through that. And you're right, this time we've had to, because of those stricter lockdowns in them LGAs, we've had to transport the dogs. And you'll know this firsthand, Tim, when we first started this, everyone was a bit hands off and etc. So, we can't be doing that. But now we're facilitating transport. But, 40 trainers, approximately 40 trainers are using the service. We're transporting between 80 and 100 dogs a week to race meetings, which is an opportunity for people to still be able to race their dogs, given the current environment. It's just important for those people and their mental health and their well-being and all those sorts of things as well. So there are a number of other factors that need to be considered in the whole metrics of the operational part.
And Wayne, I guess one of the important things that we need to bring up there is that the cost for curing those dogs and transporting them to and from the track, it's actually borne by Greyhound Racing New South Wales.
Yeah, correct, Mark. So that's something that Greyhound Racing New South Wales is supporting financially. And as I said, it ticks a number of boxes for us, Mark. It allows people to still have their dogs race, allows them to still be engaged, it still provides them something to be involved in, whether it's their hobby or their work or what it is. So we've seen that as a really important factor to be able to support our industry people in those areas at the time.
Wayne, can we go back to right to the beginning as far as you're concerned? How do you first get involved in greyhound racing?
I tell you what, Tim, we're going back a long way. But anyway, to be frank, Tim, so it was back in the 70s, late 70s. My dad was one of the curators at the Dapto track. So my uncle Seth, he was a curator and the lure driver at Dapto. Seth was deaf and dumb, and most people would remember Seth from all those years ago. So he was a curator there, and Dad used to go up there and help all the time, and was a part of the local show society, etc. So as a kid, we lived, Mum and Dad still lived like 150 metres down the road from the entrance to the showground. So I was on the push bike and school holidays and after school and up at the showground any chance I could get as a kid. So that sort of started the appetite, I suppose. And I am from a racing background. My dad trained race horses out at Kembla Grange for a long time. Both my grandfathers were also racehorse trainers, and my uncle was a racehorse trainer and a greyhound trainer. So racing's sort of in the blood. And so that's sort of been the progression for me, or how it sort of started.
Wayne, I want to talk about your stint at Dapto firstly, and we'll talk about your career after that. But I want to go back to 1991. It was the first Superco Classic, I think. It was worth $100,000 to the winner. At the time, it was the richest greyhound race in the world. The crowds were massive at Dapto. And there's W. Billett looking resplendent in white top hat and tails.
Thanks for that memory, Mark. Like, just come flooding back. It's funny. I had Simon Rhodes a few months ago send me a clip, an old YouTube clip of me actually walking onto the track in the white top hat and tails.
That's
interesting.
That's what we're looking at right at this moment, mate. Yeah, here it is on screen for you. Yeah, just so you can relive it again.
Yeah. Thanks. So Billy Dwyer was the secretary of Dapto in those days, and as we know, he was an absolutely leader and innovator in greyhound racing, and to be fair, had a very big influence on my career. So he said to me, Wayne, something different for the final. He said, normally I just wear a normal suit with a tie. He said, wear this, and I just put it up, and I don't really swear a lot, Mark, but I can tell you there was a few superlatives come out on that occasion. I said, no, I'm not wearing that. He said, mate, you're wearing it. And anyway, at the end of the day, you look back on it as a bit of good fun. It was, at the time, you're right, it was, talking about buzzes around racetracks, those type of occasions, they were packed to the rafters. There was just the buzz. You're right. It was the world's richest greyhound race. Those sort of things have sort of set our platform for where our racing is. When people forget about what happened in those days, but that's what our industry's built on, is those type of innovations and those type of people who just wanted to make our industry better.
It was a night full of drama, but the race was called off. There was a fall in the race. Dog ran back through the field. How vivid are your recollections of that night?
Oh, it's crystal clear, Mark. Red Star Rocket, Harry Hampson, the dog gets to the first turn, falls over and comes back. November Earl hits the front down the back straight, come around the home turn, and Harry Hampson run out in the middle of the track, and everyone trying to stop this dog from coming back into the field. Obviously not successful. So it was a no race. They did try to rerun the race the week after, but you've got to appreciate back in those days, 100,000 to the winner, and the second and third prize money wasn't too bad either. So they split the prize money, and I think they got roughly sort of circa $15,000 each for each dog. So there were some people, people thought, well, I'm taking the money and running, so they couldn't get a quorum up to run it the week after, so they had to split the prize money. But the old analogy is that no publicity is bad publicity. So I think it was just as much publicity generated after the event as if there was before the event.
Quite remarkable 30 years ago this year, Wayne. Now, you mentioned innovation just a moment ago. Now, you've been a big part of innovation in greyhound racing. The Dapto puppy auction, you've also introduced the Richmond Riches puppy auction. I guess, you've got a real passion for auctions.
I do. I love the auctions, Tim, and we actually done a couple of ready-to-run auctions at Dapto too in my time there. To be fair, they were only probably poor, and the reason was just the time and the resources that probably needed to go into them. I probably didn't really understand the volume of work that was involved. But auctions they've been I think they're a big part of our industry, and something that at times we've embraced really well, and other times we haven't. My view is I've always said that if we can get one new person into greyhound racing through an auction, the auction's successful. And there's been many, many people who've got involved in auctions and continue to be involved through their first purchase of an auction. And then we've had some fantastic dogs go through the auctions. And, obviously the standout one is the bidding war at one of the Richmond Riches auctions with 30 talks, for $30,000 unopposed Where's Pedro. Letter that George and Terry sold them today to Mr. Antonio, who's obviously no longer with us. But those sorts of things is they wouldn't have had them opportunities to buy those sorts of dogs and etc. without auctions. So at the moment they're sort of sitting on the sideline, to be fair, and COVID's probably had a bit of a part to play in that, Tim. But I do see that at some point in the near future, we will look at rebranding and definitely bringing those back in, because they're not only important for the buyers, they're also important for the vendors, for people to be able to have an opportunity to sell their stock to people. And it's known that if you've got good quality stock, it will always sell at an auction. And history says that.
Yeah, and look, Wayne, obviously we launched Gold Muzzle Auctions a couple of years ago. We had a very successful auction in 2019. Flying Ricardo was the headline dog, but I know personally, because I was running them, that the trials and tribulations trying to get stock for the next couple, and then we hit COVID. It was just a nightmare, and people quite rightly said, look, it's just a bit too hard at the moment. So look, we're hopeful of relaunching Gold Muzzle with the assistance of GRNSW next year as well. But I just want to go backtrack a little bit. We know that you're at Dapto. We know that you're the general manager at Richmond as well. But in between that time, you had a long career as a steward also with firstly the old Greyhound Racing Control Board, and then lately with Greyhound Racing New South Wales in your new position.
Yeah, so along my journey, Mark, I've worked for the Greyhound Control Board, Greyhound Racing Authority, Greyhound Harness Racing, Greyhound Racing New South Wales. You name it, it's on the resume. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but yeah, I mean, again, that started back in the Dapto days. They used to have club stewards back in those days. So as you know, Dapto used to run twilight meetings. Was a lot of places used to run the old twilight meetings. So sometimes Dapto would have 2 meetings in the day. They'd have 10 in the morning, 13 in the afternoon, non-tabs, and then their night meeting. But generally they'd have their 13 every Thursday afternoon. At the time, Jack Burgess was the club steward, and Jack had some health issues. So Bill Dwyer asked to say, "Oh, Wayne, why don't you just sort of be the apprentice and sort of support Jack being the club steward?" So I done that, and then that sort of turned into a part-time role with the Greyhound Racing Control Board at the time. I became a part-timer under Ronnie Nicholas, was the chief steward then, and then that led to a full-time role, and then I left full-time steward to actually go to Dapto. And then when I left Dapto, I come back to be a steward again, and then I went to Richmond. So yeah, and stewarding's a really important part of our business, that integrity component. It's something I've enjoyed. At the end of the day, hard but fair is my view in regard to that. At the end of the day, some people make some silly mistakes. They don't have intent. So I think it's just got to be some common sense in that regard with how people should be treated and what should be done. I think it's no rocket science. It's just respect, I think, is the biggest thing for me with regards to integrity.
And Wayne, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in your time in the industry?
Oh, Tim, that's a really good question. I think the on-course attendance has been one. I think that we spoke about back in the 90s when that 100,000 on, you packed them in. But I think that on-course attendance has changed. The dynamics of that has changed, and we all know that because of Sky and TV. So I think that on-course wagering dynamics is very different. We had the Tab who had the sole provider of wagering opportunities, other than on-course bookmakers, of course. That's a very different dynamic these days. That every second ad on TV is about a WSP, etc. So I think that's been a huge challenge. I think that the tracks themselves, traditionally they're all grass tracks. I remember many times returfing after on a Friday after a Thursday at that day, and you're returfing for the following Thursday or so. So that's very different. So the tracks have come a long way in that regard. I don't think people really understood how much work's involved. When the sand tracks came in, everyone thought, "Oh, this is going to be easy to maintain, etc., etc." I think at the time, I think that's probably fallacy now. I think, to be fair, there's more time spent on tracks than there's ever been because of just the required maintenance. So I think that's been a change. And also, I think the rehoming component of our industry is very different in that regard. I think that basically, we've come a long way in the last 5 years because that component of our business was quite small, but it's just become quite large in that regard, and a really important component. So I think we genuinely shown our industry now that we can care for our dogs from start to finish, which at the end of the day is probably that's centre of everything that we do now is the welfare of our greyhounds. So that's probably been the biggest changes from my view.
Away from the track, Wayne, I know that you're a devoted dad, you're a devoted family man, but you and your wife Amy share a love of hockey.
Yeah, we do, Mark. Our family does. So it's interesting. Just this week, they called the rest of the comp off down here in the Illawarra. So I've been involved sort of for 40 years, playing with the local Dapto club. I've been lucky that a lot of my great friendships, etc., have been done through hockey. So it's something that Amy and I share. She holds the honours. She's played for Australia indoor, gone over to the Masters World Cup, played overseas and stuff. So I always get regular reminded what's it like to be the worst player in your family. But that's okay. I can live with that. But it's something that as a family unit, hockey is very family orientated sport. We all play. The kids play. We have a great. It's part of our social component of what we do in our lives. So it's good, mate. We love it, and unfortunately the comp's been called off this year, but that's life, and we'll look to rebound and get back into it next year.
And finally, mate, the future of the industry, apart from riding out the pandemic, what are some of the biggest challenges we've got moving forward, and also what excites you the most?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is to continue to work in that rehoming perspective. It's maybe not a challenge, but just to continue to work on that basis. I think that's really important. I think it's really important that the industry stays competitive. I think that gets lost along the way at times. So I think that's been one of our focuses at Greyhound Racing New South Wales, is to make sure that our industry is competitive and to support our participants. And I also think with the recent introduction of graft and Richmond, they have been absolutely resoundingly well received across the board. So I think that allows us to set a platform for a standard and where we need to head to into the future, because at the end of the day, we're relying on our canine athletes to participate. We want them to be able to participate in the best opportunities, and the reinvigoration and the construction of venues will help facilitate that. So I think if we can work on those areas, I think they're the challenges that we'll work through. And we've obviously got support from the government with funding to do that, and obviously industry will support that as well. So I think if we can focus on those, we'll be well placed for the future.
And listen, I've got to ask you before we wrap this up. The offside of the co-host, he started with you a couple of months back or 6 weeks ago. How's he going, mate? Can you give us an update on his development at Greyhound Racing New South Wales?
Well, to be honest, Duke, I don't think what he signed up for, he's probably doing at the moment. To be totally honest, so obviously, Tim was brought in to be a club engagement to support me in that aspect and work with our clubs. And to be fair, we dipped our toe in the water there, but haven't been able to do a lot. But from a transport and COVID perspective, Tim's been absolutely great support to me in that aspect. He's initially I was doing that, and the workload was becoming quite extensive. So Tim looks after all the operational aspects, dealing with GWIC, the trainers, the transporters. It's been absolutely fantastic, and Tim and the racing team and some of the other, even the GWIC vets and stewards, some of the unsung heroes in some of this to really make sure that we'll be able to get through it. But I look forward to when Tim and I can actually meet face to face, because since he started, we haven't been able to do that, and we'll be able to attack some of the things that we need to do within our club framework.
Natalie, you're safe for another month at least, I'd say.
Yeah, the check's in the mail, Wayne. The check's in the mail. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, no.
Wayne,
it's been a great team effort.
thank you so much for your time, mate. Thank you for your contribution to the greyhound racing industry. You and I have worked closely together for a number of years now. And I've said it to a number of people. I don't mean to embarrass you. You are the most honest, hardest working person I've ever met in greyhound racing. So congratulations on your career, and let's hope it continues for many more years, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I really appreciate that. If I can just say this, I think for me last week, what was really touching for me was that Amy actually got a bunch of flowers. So we got some flowers delivered to our house last week, and they were from different representatives of the industry. And for me, that small gesture at the time, because last week was a really tough time, personally and industry-wise, we were just doing it tough. And that to me just gave me a bit of, I was in comfort in what I'm doing and what we're trying to do, and that we are doing the right thing for industry, and only have ever tried to do the right thing for industry. I get not every decision that we make is going to suit everyone, but we've just tried to do the right thing. And I think just moments like that. So I really appreciate the sentiment. At the end of the day, I've always considered myself to be a participant, even though I'm never a follower and leader and a dog, but I've always tried and do the best for industry while I'm in a role like this. So I really appreciate the sentiment and the comment.
Oh, that's great. And it's the little things that matter the most in life, mate, as we all know. So to the people who organised the flowers to Amy, well done, congratulations. And again, congratulations to you, Wayne. Thanks for joining us on Behind the Boxes, and we'll chat again in the future.
Yeah, no worries. I really appreciate the opportunity being on, gents. Thank you.
Good on you, Wayne. Thank you so much for your time on Behind the Boxes. Battler, time for us to chew the fat. What's hot, what's not? What's hot for you this week?
A bonny little bitch named Chrissy Bannerduke. She is airborne. She's won 19 races from 30 odd starts. Last week at Richmond, she led all the way over the middle journey, but she's made it 3 on the trot, and she's really found a mojo again in recent weeks. Barry Gibbons is her trainer. He does a tremendous job with probably what you could say a boutique racing team. Hasn't got a huge team. She ran 30 and 30 at Richmond, 3 runs ago over the 500, then up to the 590 at Bulli, ran a near track record there, and a terrific win at Richmond, as I mentioned, last Saturday night, leading all the way. And she beat some really, really quality opposition, including the likes of, Super Estrella, who we've both got a big, big rap on. Look, she's right in that zone at the moment. She's versatile. She's won over the 400, the 500, 600 meters. So yeah, she's my what's hot this week, Chrissy Banner.
Yeah, Barry does a great job with his dogs. All of them, or most of them, carry that Banner suffix. I'll tell you what's hot for me, but a greyhound by the name of Orson Laurie, prepared by Lenny and Evelyn Harris, stepped out of Grafton on Sunday afternoon, first up in a maiden, and runs a track record of 1981 over the 350 metres. So the last time I remember a greyhound making its debut and setting a track record, I think it was Space Star at Richmond over the 618 metres. That's going back, 5 or 6 years ago now. But this young pup, owned by Laurie Ruffalo, who's been a long time client of the Harris Kennel. He's by Orson Allen out of, I think it's
Laurie's Jackie,
that's right. Again, one of Laurie Ruffalo's breeding that. Boy, oh boy, to run 1981 A is an enormous thing, but to set a track record at your first start, that's huge as well.
Yeah, and the previous record, Typhoon Sammy, 1985, very, very talented greyhound, now in the care of Jason Thompson, and he is on a Victorian Country Cups path. So it just shows how good, Orson Laurie could be if you take drawing a line through Typhoon Sammy. And I do know a greyhound at the moment, Duke, Mickey Doo, has been burning up the track at the Gardens, has run 29:30 on a couple of times over the 500 metres. I know he trialled at Grafton prior to the Winter Carnival, and he trialled around 1980 as well. So I'm just gauging a line through those two greyhounds, what they've since done, running around the 19s, 8 at Grafton. So I think he's got a pretty big future. But you know what I can't work out? How on earth did he start $2.50 from box 2?
Well, I don't think Lenny and Evelyn I don't think they're what we would call a big punting kennel. And he had trial there. People knew about him, but it was the case the week before. I think Andrew Monaghan had a dog start at 10s on because of his trials as well. So maybe they missed that one and let it go through the keeper. But of course, the Harris has had great success with that great old warhorse, Cosmic Bonus. And I think Evelyn said it'd be great if we had another Cosmic Bonus. Boy, oh boy, Orson Laurie to run a track record first up, an outstanding effort. I'll tell you what else, hot battler this week at Bulleye, race 4 and race 6, two of the best races we've seen in recent times. Obviously, Wenny Park in hiatus at the moment. Let's talk about race 4. It's the top grade sprint over 472 metres. This is a group class field.
Isn't it? What? Lily Banner, she's a Group 1 Peter Mossman winner. Good Odds Cash, she's a real up-and-comer. She won the New South Wales Sprint Championship only a couple of weeks ago in Zone 1. Wow, he needs no introduction. Zipping Conway, he's quite possibly one of the biggest boom dogs in New South Wales. It is a red-hot field. Wow, he was brilliant on Wednesday night, running 26:04 around Bulleye. He's backing up again on Saturday night, but gee, it's a hot race. We've both got a big rap on Good Odds Cash. She's drawn to get clear running early underneath Wow. Zipping Conway, he's won 5 out of 7, Duke, and he's run very quick time around there. He's broken the 26, so it is a red hot field. We'll be tuning into that race, 7:08 on Saturday night.
Yeah, and of course, Trunky Rose, who draws box 6, she was a finalist in the Group 1 Bulleye Gold Cup earlier this year. Maldini, terrific money spinner. It is a red hot field. Race 6 on the card, Timmy. This is the top grade over the 590 metres. Stanley Road, Super Estrella, Explosive Venom, Meat Pie Hero, Sound of Silence, Chrissy Banner. Seriously, how good a race is this going to be?
Another corker, isn't it? Stanley Road, he's resuming from a injury-enforced spell. We last saw him when he finished runner-up in the Sandown Cup back in, late May. Of course, he's a dual Group 1 winner. He's perfectly drawn in box number 1. He's a mad railer. There's no doubt he'll be giving these greyhounds a start, but I read an article which Mark Gatt, stated he's got him trialing, he's got him back well, he's ready to go, he's been trialing over the 500 metres. Look, they'll need to run a near track record to win this race. They'll be hiking because Chrissy Banner, who I've just highlighted, she's the likely leader in the race. She'll charge across from the wide alley, likely go to the top. Where will Super Estrella, settle? I'd say she'll cross Stanley Road in the early stages. Her run when she finished 3rd behind Chrissy Banner last Friday night or Saturday night at Richmond was a corker. She found trouble at the first turn. Her run to finish 3rd in the end was really good. You can't knock Sound of Silence. He's won 15 or 16 of 30 odd starts, and Explosive Venom. She's the real up and comer. So yeah, another cracking race. We're not seeing city racing at Woodworth Park, Duke, but we're certainly seeing city class racing at Bulleye.
I've got a real rap on Explosive Venom Battler, trained by Dan Flanagan up at near Cessnock at Head and Redder and that. She has jumped out of the ground the last 4 starts she's won on the bounce. She won at the Gardens in 29.29. We're talking a length and a bit outside the track record. Then won again at the Gardens, then went to Maitland, won over the 565 metres. But have a look at a win last week at the Gardens over the 600. She wasn't entitled to win the race the way it was run and the trouble she struck. I know there's a massive step up in class for her, but I also know that, greyhounds, when they're racing with confidence, they do things that you don't expect them to do. And she can obviously run time 29.2 at the Gardens. Thank you.
Yeah, she is an up and comer, but yeah, as you just alluded to, it is a big, steep rising class here. Like she beat Sailing Home, who, only a 5th grader, at a latest run at the Gardens. I know she's put the time on the board, but hey, this is near enough to we know he's a Group 1 dog, Stanley Road, Super Australia. She'll get to Group 1 level. The way Chrissy Banner is going, look, she could end up in anything, even down the track in Group 1s if Barry elected to go, maybe up to the middle journey interstate and look for a Group 1 later in the year. So yeah, I concur. She's got ability. She's on an upward trend, but she is rising sharply in class here.
Absolute cracking race. All right, let's find a dog to follow. Who have you got this week?
Now, I'm going to Dapto last Thursday night. A young greyhound by the name of Velocity Tamika won the big maiden final there. I was impressed with what she did. She began cleanly. She drove hard along the inside. She went to the top. She ran a 5:41 early section, 17:14 to the top turn. But what I liked about a mid-race, Duke, she had pressure from the outside, but she just kept on driving. And she's not a big girl. She had pressure. She's only a second run. So to drive what she did and hold that greyhound from crossing, and then she just knuckled down and she roared away. She left at rivals lamenting in the latter stages. 12:57 the run home time, 29:71 overall. It looks a lovely litter, actually. There's only 3 to have raced of the litter. They've all won at their first or second start in the care of Glenn and Robin Goodwin, who they're no stranger to Group 1 success. They won the Peter Mossman a few years ago with Velocity Liberty from memory. But what was even more better about the run, Duke, that Zulu Warlord, a free-for-aller, we know what he can do and the times he can run. Well, he won the top grade race for the evening, running 29:63 just an hour and a half later. So she was 8/100ths outside his run. So, gee, I think she's got a big future. She goes around at Dapto tonight. We're recording this on a Thursday. She's drawn box 8. She's better drawn nearer to the rails, but I think she might get a card across. But I think she's a definite dog to follow, Velocity Tamika.
All right, my dog to follow. I'm still trying to get on the board. Lockmaster in 2nd or 3rd at Bulli last night. I'm going to play safe here. Barcia Quality, who's a litter mate to a dog you tipped a couple of weeks back called Top Quality, prepared by Daryl Thomas, by Barcia Bale out of All Quality. Beautiful damn line, Legrand quality dogs like that. 4 starts, 4 wins, kicked off a career at Richmond over the 300, ran 18.5. Went to the Gardens over the 400, won there. Won at Maitland over the 400. Went back to the Gardens last week, ran 29.59. Ran 4.95 to the first mark. Again, no gold stars for tipping something like this, but I'm just saying that she's a dog. And I know Daryl's had problems with her. She had some injury problems, and he's been very patient with her. But she's a dog that is safe. If she continues that upward trajectory that we talk about, and when we do get group racing back, she could be a dog that makes that step up to that level, Tim.
Yeah, concur, Duke. A real talent. As I said, I highlighted the other one in the litter, Top Quality, as you just mentioned the other week. And he's got some nice young pups on his hands at the moment, and he places his greyhounds really well. They're generally lightly raced early days, and there's no doubt this greyhound, it'll be winning many more. And owned by Kelly Fogarty, who I mentioned on the show not too long ago. She's a good friend of mine. It's great to see Kel. She's got another talented type.
All right, so that is what's hot, what's not. They are our dogs to follow. Next week on Behind the Boxes, Wade Birch from GWIC will be joining us. Now, if you've got questions that you'd like us to ask Wade, just send us an email to Behind the Boxes. So the email ad is btb@grnsw.com.au. Wade Birch on next week's episode of Behind the Boxes. Send us in your questions. I know a lot of people have got questions for GWIC and about the regulation of our sport. So if you've got a question, this is your opportunity that Timmy and I can ask Wade Birch those questions next week. That's all we've got for this week, Battler. Big week. Home shopping. What's on the agenda this week? What have you got coming?
You know what I actually ordered the other day, and I think they'll be here in the next day or two.
What, an
Martini
alpaca
glasses.
or a llama or something? What was it?
Martini glasses. I'm going to try and making espresso martinis on the weekend. I said to Paula, I said, listen, we're going to try and do something Saturday to fill in an hour or two, and I might cook a barbie and, you know, get a bit of seafood or something and try my hand at an espresso martini.
Why don't you go to the next step, mate? Why don't you do the, you know, my name's Newbold, Tim Newbold. Do the James Bond,
Yeah, no.
the suit, the bow tie, right? The dry martini, stirred, not shaken, shaken, not stirred. What, you know, like,
Yeah, no,
make an
I'd
effort,
be,
mate. Come on,
I'd be laughed out of the household if I did that, believe me.
make an effort for her. Come on, she does a great job. She puts up with it. All right, mate. Hey, listen, let's hope this Saturday night meeting at Bulla, I'll be watching intensely, and it looks like to be a great week of racing. Turnover figures are through the roof on greyhound racing in New South Wales. So the future is again looking very bright. Thanks for your company again, mate. See you next week.
Been a lot of fun, Duke. Chat then.
Timmy Newbold, the Battler, on Behind the Boxes, and I will join you next week here on Behind the Boxes. Don't forget, send us those emails to btb@grnsw.com.au. Finally put the teeth back in, and I'll catch you next week. Bye for now.